Glad we got you all in here for the first annual detox we're going to do here at Rainier Chiropractic. So it's a pretty good turnout, but there's a lot of people that can't make it, so we're videoing today. We're going to post it on YouTube for those that couldn't make it, and in case you miss anything. I'm just going to go through kind of what detox is, talk about why it's necessary, and then talk about what we're going to do with this program. There will be time at the end for a little Q&A, and so try to save your questions, or if you got a pen, just write some down, and we'll ask at the end, so that way we can just get the video up and we'll be good. Alright, so anybody in here ever do a detox before? Cool, so we got probably about half the room. Okay, so detox is basically just to take substances that are toxic to our body and make them harmless or remove them from the body or from the diet in order for our body to generally grow and repair. That's the main point. So today it's more prevalent than ever that we need it. Our body's got a great system to detox, but toxins are overwhelming. They're all around us. The food we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink. Now some of them are voluntary and some of them are involuntary the way they're coming into our system. So if you look down the list here, I put some of them in bold and some are in lighter letters. And just know that the bold ones are the ones that we can control. So there's a lot that we can control that goes into our body on a daily basis. So basically what we're going to try to do with this diet is the processed foods part. Water, we'll explain that later, but if you have the means to do purified water during the cleanse, that's going to be beneficial. You know, we can't really get around to air. You're not going to get off medications. You're going to stay on whatever meds that you're on, supplements within reason, but we'll get to all that. But big reason for doing a detox right now is to basically help the body do normal processes better. So toxins interfere with a lot of processes. So that next slide down, we just talk about glucose and cholesterol metabolism. Those are some of the big functions of our liver, and when we're toxic we can't do those normally. We can't store sugars, we can't convert sugars into fats to store, nor the other way, we can't actually break down fat, hence a lot of the reasons why if you're a little bit toxic it's hard to lose weight. So the next two kind of go together, disrupt mitochondrial function and cause oxidative stress. So those are two huge things that are more prevalent now when you hear about, you know, cancers and inflammatory diseases and all these things kind of running rampant. So the reason why is because as toxicity goes up in our body, our immune system starts to break down. And it affects our whole GI tract. You see more symptoms of depression, neurodegenerative disorders, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, excess body weight gain. So another big one, toxins promote inflammation. Now this is why we see it in the chiropractic realm more than ever. And the big thing is we want to reduce inflammation because the majority of you are patients here with, you know, maybe some small problems or maybe some larger problems depending on, you know, I'm not going to point any fingers or anything. But basically if we reduce inflammation in the whole body, the body shrinks a little bit and the body becomes less inflamed and less hot, less painful to the touch. So we want to knock all that down. Those of you that are getting treated for a chronic condition, you'll see at the end of the 3 weeks that chronic condition, the pain is going to be just turned down from a 10 down to like a 3. It'll be crazy how much of an effect it has on your body. So really try to stick with it. The other big one, a lot of people want to do detox because they hear it's great for weight loss. We just talked about the inflammation. When you take systemic inflammation and you take it out of the body has this shrinking effect. Our whole body gets inflamed from our joints to our muscles to tendons. And so when you take out all these stressors, you'll see the body just kind of shrink and you'll actually lose weight from it. The other thing is it increases your thyroid function, or balances your thyroid. I shouldn't say increases. So if you have hypo or hyperthyroid, a lot of times the toxicities that we have around us are going to affect how our thyroid functions. Thyroid has a lot to do with glucose utilization as well as how we burn fat. So, and then the last one, just appetite regulation. Craving weird foods, eating, you know, small meals and still gaining weight. There's a lot that has to do with how toxic our body is and how we utilize the nutrients that we're taking in. So we're going to learn to eat better basically during this. So how do we do it on a normal basis? I kind of had a nice little picture there. You have a great innate system in your body to break down toxins, whether it be the liver, the skin, the kidneys, your circulatory system, your lymph functions. You have a lot of different organs that help promote that. And they work really, really well, even with the stress that we have today, until stress overwhelms our systems and starts to break down those natural processes. So if you have a healthy body, you're able to repair and grow, heal tissues. You'll see, that's when you see somebody that has cancer for many years and they drop inflammation in their body and they drop stress, and you see how it actually affects and maybe go into remission, or maybe they stop having symptoms from it. And that's kind of the beauty of just knocking down inflammation. So after all, 9 out of 10 of the leading causes of death, and this is by the World Health Organization, are from inflammatory conditions. The only one not being is accidental death, or like a car wreck, you die, or something like that. That's pretty much the only one that doesn't have to do with inflammation. Heart disease, cancer, cholesterol balances, all these things that lead up to it. So, how do we detox? So everything we eat that goes into our body, we break down in our system. It goes through our intestines and gets into our bloodstream. Everything that makes its way to the bloodstream has to pass through the liver. It's kind of like an oil filter on your car. Oil comes through, goes into the filter, and it kind of spreads out and then comes back into another vein that exits, or another hose that exits, and it's clean oil. That's basically what our liver does. We have hepatocytes, and they actually break down the toxic material and decide what to do with it. They either render it, a less harmful substance, or they tell it, you're going to go here to the kidneys, you're going to go here to, back to the intestines to either get flushed out in urine or fecal matter for the most part, or sometimes stress. I don't know if anybody in here has drank too much on one night by accident, and of course accident, and then you sweat it out the next day. So your skin works great as a detox organ, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but if you have a sauna or a steam room, that's a great time to use it when you're detoxing, because you'll actually sweat out some more of the toxins. So if you flip the page, detox systems, we just talk about it again, just basically the main ones that we're going to be using. So then we need to talk about why our body is going to get overwhelmed and how we can kind of get away from this. And anybody that's been around chiropractic long enough knows that we talk about 3 types of stress: physical, chemical, and emotional, or thoughts, traumas, toxins. And those all play into the part that, what stress we bring into our life, what stress we put on our bodies, ultimately affects our healing and our growth and our repair. So if we were stress-free, we'd live to the 120 years that our mitochondrial basically would allow us to live to. We have a certain endpoint in our lives, and it's about 120 years. And when you start to add stress, it starts to move down that chain. So the big thing is, the more stresses that you can decrease, the more that you can take out toxins from your life, the further you can push that back towards the 120, and you actually can repair. All the, I want to say BS about, that you can't repair certain things after a certain age, or you can't reverse, a degenerated disc. If Joe was here, he'd be the first one to tell you that that's completely untrue. For those of you that have read his first book, he talks about basically coming back from horrendous trauma. And he's healthy. I've adjusted the guy many times, and he adjusts just like the healthiest person. And without medical intervention, his body was able to heal. So we have a great innate capacity to heal when given the chance. So we'll go through the types of stress, and you can just see maybe there's places that in your life you can kind of reduce some of these. Physical stress can be a little hard. Sometimes we work manual labor jobs. I like working out a lot, so I push myself a little bit, and I sustain physical trauma from what I choose to do. Now, some of these things we can control, some not. There's some people in here that have had motor vehicle accidents, workers' injuries, or you're just working really hard every day. We have a lot of blue-collar workers in this community that just put in a good day's work, and that's tough on the body. So if we know we can't reduce it there, we have these other 2 places, though. So the next big one's chemical, and that's the one we're going to work with. So chemical stress is huge, and that's everything around us. Big one that we're going to work on is the food that we put in our body. Now, anything that you put in your body is going to get utilized. And so, if you're eating Big Macs and that, French fries and that kind of foods, you're going to utilize it, but there's also a lot of waste, and there's a lot of excess calories that we don't need, versus the meal of having a lean piece of fish, some vegetables, maybe some healthy fats like an avocado or something. Your body's going to use so much more of that. So chemical stress is going to be a huge, huge thing. Again, medications, prescription drugs, this is a place where we can't make a lot of intervention at this point. But as the inflammation comes down in the body, as diet actually gets better, we can actually control blood sugar. So any type 2 diabetics in the room, you guys could do really well with this, because we actually see that a lot of times after a detox, you'll see that your blood sugar ends up starting to be too low, and they'll actually be able to reduce your amount of insulin that you're on sometimes. So really, really cool effect once we start to get control over blood sugar. Those that want to lose weight in the room, blood sugar is everything when it comes to weight loss. Blood sugar, basically how much insulin your body pumps out, or if you have to take insulin, insulin shoves fats and shoves sugars into the body for storage. So if we can control the amount that we store and the amount that we utilize, that's the way to lose weight and keep it off. And that's why all the fad diets don't tend to work, is because you throw a bunch of fats. Let's look at like Atkins or something. You throw a bunch of fat and saturated fat and really high levels of protein, and now the body has to work so hard to digest it. But at the same time, you're still pumping out insulin because you're allowed to eat processed foods. It never controls the types of foods you eat. It just says, here's how much fat and protein you should get. You're not eating any carbs. And so we'll get to that a little bit later, how carbs stress us. But GMOs are huge in this area. We just saw like the big picketers on the sides of the roads, and genetically modified foods are going to be a big issue with our diets. And so to be able to control that, to go to local farms and just to continue to educate yourself on why organic's a little bit better, or it's not just about supporting your local community of Yelm, but also to help your own health. If it's GMO free and if it's organic, we know there's going to be a lot less pesticides, a lot less additives, a lot less stuff that our body has to break down just to get the nutrients that we want out of it. So that's going to be really big. Alcohol, recreational drugs, I think that's kind of a given. Those are just tough on our system. Those are going to be, if you have a real addiction to something, that's going to be really hard during the detox. We're going to ask that it's alcohol-free, and we're going to do drug-free, and it's going to be not medication-free, but recreational drugs. And then coffee. Coffee's out the window for those of you. That's going to be a tough one. But you can have green tea. No black tea, no coffee. But you can drink as much green tea as you want, pretty much. High in antioxidants, so it's going to help with the system. And a lot of water, because your kidneys are going to be working extra hard. Last thing, emotional stress. Another tough one to control. And that's why I say we're going to mostly work on chemical stress. So emotional stress, you have family issues, kid issues, job issues. You don't like your boss. I love my boss, so, just in case he's watching. But anyway, all these things kind of add up to the stress that creates that bad side of what we don't want in our lives. So we're going to try to get rid of as much stress as possible. And so just one slide on there on just how stress really affects us. And basically we have this autonomic nervous system. So we have one system in our body that basically just controls breathing, heart rate, all the major functions. And then our autonomic is our fight or flight system. And that's, the stress mode, and then you have the parasympathetic or the rest and digest mode. And you either are in one or in the other. So it's not really, you want to be balanced, and then you actually want to be more parasympathetic mode. Now, most of us live in the sympathetic realm. You wake up late for work in the morning, you eat a terrible breakfast, and then you're rushing to get in the shower, you're rushing to get your clothes on and get to work. Maybe there's traffic and you're swearing and flipping people off, who knows? You get to work and you're already late, and there's just a lot of things, and now your body's gone right from sleep to this sympathetic dominance. And that sympathetic dominance just is rough on this system, rough on the detoxification system, and rough on your GI tract. And so that's why as we live in this, technologically advanced society, and things are getting more and more sympathetic run, we have a lot more of a problem calming down, and that's why I really support Dr. Joe's work. His work is a lot on meditation, and actually if you look at meditation, it puts you in parasympathetic mode. It allows the body to heal, and that's why we see so many miracles when people are in that state. So really big, I'm not going to say you have to meditate during this, but if you do, and if you're interested in it, this is the best time to do a little bit more of it or to get started on it. So, we want to be in healing mode. So now why are we focusing on the liver? So if I had to pick any organ, any system that I wanted to affect to actually help to increase my health and detoxify my body, it'd be the liver, because it has the most functioning in detoxification. So why not pick the biggest one if we're going to make the quickest change in the shortest time possible? So liver has over 500 functions. I'm not going to read them all to you, nor did I write them down. But the next chart, you can kind of see how the liver ties into a lot of things that you wouldn't think it does. Feeling tired, feeling lethargic, having blood sugar issues, having bloating, having joint pain, back pain. A lot of these have to do with how we're detoxifying our body or how we're using our liver. And when that system starts to be overwhelmed, then we start to see issues within it. So we're going to focus on the liver. Now we can break that down even more. So there's 500 functions. How do we decide which ones we're going to affect? We're going to affect the greatest ones again. So we're really going to zero in on what's the best thing we can do in this 3-week time to detoxify our body. So the big thing is liver does metabolism and it does detoxification. Those are the two major things that your liver does on a daily basis and does very well in a healthy body. So we convert all the sugars that we eat to store either in the liver or in the muscle tissue in the form of glycogen. And that's just, so if you want to go out and you want to sprint, you want to run, you go to the gym, that's where you start to draw from those stores. You go a little long between meals, you start to draw from the stores, so it keeps your blood sugar level. Now, if our liver is not functioning as well as it should, you start to see these spikes in blood sugar because we're not controlling our metabolism of sugars very well. Also, converting fat to energy occurs through the liver. So those that want to lose weight and want to lose body fat, not just water weight and everything, like legitimately lose fat weight, you need the liver to function at a really, really high level. So the way that our body breaks down fats is we oxidize the fats. We need oxygen, and we break down the fats to sugars in which we use. So we'll explain kind of how to get to that and how the low-carb dieting in a good way can actually really sustain that really well too. So then we'll look at detoxification. We're going to break down a lot of substances in our body throughout the 3 weeks that, have been sitting in there for a while, as well as the little bit of foods and like toxins and stuff that we're still going to take in. Our body's going to run at a very, very high level, so it's going to be easier to detox. And you guys have gotten your Clearvite, and I don't know if they passed around some of the brochures that go with the Clearvite, but basically it's a protein powder. It's a low allergen brown rice protein powder. So few benefits to this. So one, you're going to get a little extra protein. You need protein to detox the liver. And then the other thing is you need certain nutrients to keep detoxification going. So a lot of times what we see is these crazy diets where you're mixing like cayenne pepper and lemon juice and it's the next miracle cure for detoxification, and then after 3 days you feel terrible. And so the big thing with that is your body does well in a short term. You're basically starving it. So you're taking all the stress off your GI tract so the liver can do its normal function, but then it realizes that you're starving itself after a few days, and then it holds on to everything it can. Every nutrient you put in your body's like, no, I'm not giving it up, I'm holding on to it. So then your metabolism drops, and that's when it's really, really hard to lose weight. See HCG diets, all these fads that are 500 calories a day, and people wonder why after they get off of it, their weight skyrockets back up after. And that's the big reason is we've dropped our metabolism to a point that says, I'm only getting 500 calories a day, I better store everything I can, or else I'm going to starve. So it's kind of like a mechanism our body has just to survive. And then you get off of that and you start pouring food back in, and it doesn't know what to do, so it starts holding it as body fat. It's like, this person's going to starve me again. So we hold on to all that. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then so when we talk about what causes liver damage, you look down the road and you see, you hear about cirrhosis and alcohol and drug metabolites. Everything has to pass through it. So every time the liver takes a little bit of that stress, it takes it for us basically, and so that we can be healthier, our liver gets a little bit damaged. Now, in a healthy body, liver cells can actually regenerate within hours and days. It doesn't take months and months for liver cells to regenerate. It's the only organ we can chop off 3/4 of it and it actually grows back. Like, it's just an impressive organ. So really, really cool. Yeah, that if you've ever heard of like donating liver tissue, it'll actually take in a body with the same blood type, and then your body will grow back to a full normal sized liver. And so really cool. So it gives us a lot of benefits. Say, hey, my liver's a little bit damaged, but you know what? If I take down the stress, I can actually regenerate it to a high, high level. And then after that, my metabolism goes up, my sugar metabolism goes up, you know, maybe my blood glucose starts to drop, you know, so these are all great effects. So the damage, we're going to see healthy fats. Now, when I look at, or unhealthy fats rather, so when you take in too many fats in your body, or when I say unhealthy fats, sugars are actually converted to fat in the body. So this is going to include refined carbohydrates. When we take in too many calories in the form of sugar, carbs, it's basically going to get stored, because that's the way our body always holds on to stuff. At the same time, that's a really big stressor on our body, and the leading cause of the neurodegenerative disorders that we kind of talked about, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, they're starting to look at the best treatment right now is a diet of less than 5% carbohydrates, because you're basically allowing the brain tissue to start to heal, you're allowing the gut to heal. And there's a strong connection between the gut metabolism and your brain metabolism. So we're going to heal one and heal the other. So you guys are probably going to think a lot clearer on this diet too, after you get through the initial shock that, wow, I can only eat certain foods. So
I get that in writing.
you got it. All right. This next slide's kind of interesting. I put this one in here because this kind of shows how when you get into the cycle, it's really, really hard to get out of it. So you start with a little bit of a toxic liver, and then it leads down the line. You have detoxification problems because it starts to get overwhelmed. Your body leads to oxidative stress, free radical production. And you've probably heard of antioxidants and using them for, you know, reducing the risk of cancers. And that's basically what free radical production is. When we break down foods, there's always remnants of what's left over. When we break down certain products in our body, those metabolites are toxic to our body. Antioxidants come in and they're basically kamikaze pilots. You take in the antioxidants, they bind to these toxins and allow them to be neutralized and flushed out of the body. So that's where antioxidants are going to come in here. And there are a good amount in the Clearvite, so that's where that's going to keep it at a higher level. So that free radical production, now if we don't deal with that, leads to other health problems. You'll see gastrointestinal distress, and then eventually breaking down of the gut, in which you've probably heard the term leaky gut before. And all that is when you take carbohydrates and you can't break them down, the particles stay too big. The particles stay too big and they start to cause stress and wreak havoc on the digestive system. When I talk about gluten, the big thing with gluten, seeing that it's a carbohydrate and it's very hard for us to break it down, it's because back in the 50s they actually changed the structure of gluten so that they could grow it in every climate. Now, we were never allergic to gluten. There was never a gluten intolerance with the majority of the population. Now we're 90-95% allergic to gluten. And the only thing that shows up in the average person is just a little bit of bloating. So people are like, I'm not gluten intolerant. They eat a loaf of bread and they feel a little bit bloated the next day and they never connect the two. But we're 95% allergic to gluten, and it's only because of the way that it's processed now. And the way that it is around the world, so it's really hard to find gluten that's not processed that way. So anyway, it causes that intestinal permeability. I go to gluten because that's the big one that breaks down that barrier in the gut. And it basically causes, what you have is cells in your gut that kind of look like this, and they create a lot of surface area for absorption. And what starts to happen is those get further and further and further apart, and now large molecules can get in the gut and start to wreak havoc on other systems. You see more irritable bowel syndrome. You see a little bit more of acid reflux. You see a lot of these things that didn't used to be prevalent. Now we're just eating too bad of foods and our body can't handle it. So we treat with drugs and then it continues that cycle. So how we're going to do it? 2 basic things: take the stress out and increase availability of nutrients that are naturally going to detox. So the diet's going to de-stress the system. If you can meditate, prayer, anything like that's going to be really, really great to de-stress the system. And then the Clearvite is going to help with the nutrients. So if you look on the next page, it gives a few of the remove from your diet. So yeah, we said it: gluten, dairy, soy, and then there's like nuts, peanuts, red meat, alcohol, coffee. Now when this diet's over, we'll be able to add those back in one at a time, and you'll kind of see how that works. And then this just lists a few of the nutrients that are available in the Clearvite. But let's get to our program though, so we know exactly how it's going to work. So if you're allergic to anything, obviously that's off the table to start with. If you think you're slightly allergic, just throw it out. If you've eaten walnuts before and you say, you know what, walnuts are no good for me, throw them out. I'm going to say that the two kinds of nuts I would rather people stick to on this one is going to be almonds and cashews. They're the two lowest allergy nuts out there. And make sure that when you look at the package, it's not processed in a place that there's also peanuts. Peanuts are a really high allergy. Even if you don't get the anaphylaxis and anything like that, there still is an allergy effect to it, and we want to keep everything on a low. So the dairy includes everything, cheese, soy products as well. Tomatoes, which is kind of weird because, unless you have a tomato allergy, but we do want to wipe it out because there is a small allergenicity to tomatoes. And so you can kind of read through this: corn, peanuts, alcohol, coffee, like we said, peanuts, peanut butter, and then all the processed meats. So no pork products, no bacon, no hot dogs, no cold cuts. So when we say chicken and turkey, we mean chicken and turkey breast, legs, actual cuts of meat rather than, deli meats. And so the program, we'll get into it a little bit here. We're going to drink more water. If you already drink a lot of water, it says 8 to 10 glasses a day. That turns out to be about a half a gallon. So if you're drinking about a half a gallon a day, that's a good place to start. You can increase it a little bit if you want, but if you're already there, that's a really good start to be there. The grain foods that you are going to be allowed: rice, millet, quinoa, buckwheat, or tapioca. So for those of you that bake, there are some options out there. There's brown rice flour, there's tapioca flour, so you can still bake to a certain extent. Not as easy to get the bread to rise, but good for like dumpling recipes and kind of stuff like that. You can substitute the tapioca flour, works pretty well. So we get into fruits. Now fruits, says it on here, but I don't want it to be like fruit crazy. The majority of the foods is going to be coming from vegetables, your lean meat protein sources, and then some healthy fats in there, the nuts and seeds and avocado. So fruits, the problem with fruit though is instead of regular sugar, it basically is converted to fructose. And they've actually done a lot of studies lately, which is interesting because fructose actually doesn't satisfy any cravings for hunger in our brains. They had somebody eat fruit and they did brain scans, and then they did studies looking at it after, and they saw it never got to like the food satisfaction centers letting them know that they're ever full. So you could basically eat all the fruit you want and you'd never feel anything from it. Kind of sad, unless it's a lot of fiber that you're getting in it. So kind of limit that a little bit. Beans are going to be great. I don't know if we included, we're going to send out some recipes and emails later. I don't know if we had a bean soup, but if we have one at home, I'll probably try to send that out too. Really high in protein, really high in fiber, great for the system. Probably do like an organic vegetable stock or something like that, and like a bean soup. That'll be really great. We could always put some chicken or something in it too. So beans are going to be a good staple. Now your meats is interesting. So we talked about turkey, fish, and what do we have? Turkey, fish, chicken, and lamb. Those are the only 4 that are allowed. And those are going to be allowed the first week and the last week only. That middle week, there's going to be no animal products. And what you'll see is the Clearvite shakes. We'll show, I think it's on one of the next slides, on the how to take. Yeah, just flip over to the next page there. So you can kind of look at this, how it goes. We basically start taking 1 serving for a few days, and then 2 servings, and then 3 servings, and then start to back down off of it. So the Clearvite's really beneficial in helping your body detox very quickly. The good thing also is there's, I think, 12 grams of protein in the Clearvite itself. So that week when you're low animal products, you'll still be getting 36 grams of protein just from the shakes. So for a lot of people, that's, 36 is a decent amount of protein. For some people, that might be probably even half of what I eat on a normal basis. So that's still a pretty large amount of protein. So that'll kind of help satisfy some hunger during that middle week that's going to be the toughest. It really will be. Just back real quick, but sweet potatoes are going to be allowed. Like I said, cashews, almonds, almond butter. Cashew butter is a little higher in fats, and sometimes they put a little more sugar in, so just be careful of where you get it. If you get it at like a co-op or something, maybe see if you can get a sample first, and if it doesn't taste overly sugary, the cashew butter is actually really good too. Avocado. Your main oils that you're going to use to cook with are going to be coconut oil and I don't really like to cook with olive oil because basically you heat olive oil a little bit over 180 degrees and it actually breaks down the olive oil a little bit, so you lose a lot of the health benefits. So a lot of people don't know about that, so olive oil is going to mostly be used for salads, tossing vegetables in, maybe towards the end of cooking as you're like turning down the temperature, turning it off, maybe you can just throw a little olive oil on to get a little extra fats, but don't cook with it if you can. Try to stick to coconut oil. If you don't like the flavor, you can use canola oil, but
Avocado oil?
avocado oil you can use. A little pricier alternative, but it tastes great too. So flaxseed oil is great too. A lot of health food stores carry that one, and if you're going to do any green shakes or anything, I sent a couple recipes. Really great thing to knock down inflammation even more is to add a little bit of flaxseed oil. I like flaxseed oil personally too because it actually scavenges free estrogen in the body. So kind of an interesting fact. So men that want their testosterone levels to be a little bit higher, or women that want a little bit more of hormonal balance, a little bit of flaxseed oil a day can actually help to scavenge some estrogen, kind of keep your hormones more balanced throughout the month. So kind of a neat benefit. Okay, then just kind of like a few notes that I'm just going to go through. Get the most out of this. It's only 3 weeks, so try to be as strict as possible. Try to go organic whenever possible. And when I say whenever possible, meats, it's imperative that you really try to go organic for the meats. The servings aren't huge, and it does cost a little bit more, but the amount of pesticides and the amount of toxins that actually get into the chickens and the turkey and all these is a lot higher in the non-organic. We don't really know where they're coming from, so we don't know what's in them. You'll probably get used to the taste difference too. If you go organic, you might not go back after. Try to filter or purify water if possible. Like I said, it ends up being about a half a gallon a day, so if you aren't into purifying water, you can always buy it by the gallon. You'll need about 10 gallons, so $10 at Walmart or something for the entire detox. So pretty cheap if you want to try to do filtered water. Smaller meals with greater frequency. So you'll probably notice, those of you that have looked through the fold out, that you're actually eating 5 meals a day, 3 meals, 2 snacks, and a Clearvite shake. And then that kind of increases as we go throughout the week. And you're seeing that you're actually getting a decent amount of food throughout the day. So you're going to be eating every 2-3 hours. The idea is not to fill up. Now you shouldn't eat a meal and be like, oh man, I'm tired and lethargic. It should you eat a meal and you actually can go do something. So it's kind of nice. You could go for a walk right after you eat. And that's a great way to feel. We should never eat. That's the way most countries eat, and in America we tend to eat 60% of our calories from carbohydrates, and we feel all loaded and lethargic by the time we get done eating a meal. So also you probably noticed on that Clearvite brochure, you're going to kind of use this a lot. The same chart that I put in there, how to take sample diets to give you an idea of kind of when to take meals, what snacks look like, if snacks are a handful of nuts and a piece of fruit, or some celery sticks and almond butter. It'll give you some good ideas on basically how to space out your meals, but it'll also kind of give you an idea on what portion size is. Now, for those of you that don't know, meat's generally about the size of your palm. So if you're doing a piece of fish, it's going to be about half an inch and about the size of your palm. It's going to give you anywhere from 20 to 30 grams of protein. It's a pretty small amount, but that's what our body's meant to digest in one sitting. You probably see some athletes and bodybuilders and all this, they'll eat 60, 70 grams of protein in a meal. Realistically, we can't break that down. Our kidneys work really hard, and that's when you see stress on the kidneys later in life, and we don't want that. It gets pushed out as nitrogen and ammonia in the urine, and usually you can kind of see some degeneration of the kidneys when the protein's too high. So really kind of control the meals. Like I said, veggies are almost a free food on this. You can eat a lot of veggies, and the more fibrous veggies, they're going to kind of go through your system, and it's going to help flush everything out. Also, they're going to give you a lot of nutrients, and they'll make you feel pretty good.
So where's the ranch dressing?
No ranch dressing on this one. Good question. No olive oil. Good? No. Okay. Most will do pretty good with about the serving sizes that are on the Clearvite brochure. Obviously, if you weigh 300 pounds, that little serving's not going to look like very much, so you'll kind of have to go. Same thing if you weigh 100 pounds, that serving might look a little bit too much for you. So most people do pretty well with the recommendations, though, that are on that brochure there. So like we kind of said earlier, if you have access to a gym, steam room, sauna, sweat it out, exercise. Your skin's a great detox organ, so use it. Get a sweat in during the 3 weeks. Try to get a week if you can, and that'll really kind of up the benefits of the detox. Those that want to lose weight, and this is kind of cool, we do this at the house, and a lot of patients actually do it. I'm surprised. It's all over doctors and all these shows, but apple cider vinegar, huge benefits to it. When I was kind of researching a lot of this stuff, we've been taking it for a while, but the apple cider vinegar actually drops blood sugar levels. So those of you that want to help control body fat and how you're putting it on, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in the morning, 2 tablespoons before bed. It's a little bit acidic if you're worried about the enamel on your teeth. I just say put it in a little bit of warm water. You can put a little lemon or just a small amount of honey just to take the bitterness out, and drink it through a straw. And that's kind of the best way to do it, is just, it bypasses the teeth, so you don't break down any enamel, because it is very acidic if you were just to, I drink it, but I know that's not always the best way to do it. So really great though, but it actually increases the fat burning benefits, as well as helping to flush out your system a little bit better. So exercise, we talked about that. So now, here's the part where we're kind of talking about meditation or prayer. Now, when I say like chemical stress is the only one that we're really going to go after on this one, that's not true. If you have the opportunity to go for extra walks during this, to get outside, get some sunshine, just kind of be with nature. If you do meditate, increase your meditation a little bit, or at least stay with it throughout this. Meditation is not for everybody either. If you're more prayer side, if you're spiritual in the prayer side, that works the same benefit too. They've shown that meditation actually increases gray matter in the brain, letting us live longer, healthier throughout our brain health, but also calms our sympathetic functions in our body. So really great. And then get more sleep. So don't feel so rushed. We're going to do most of our cooking at home. On like Sunday, we'll make a few different salads, stuff that we can kind of pack for the week. Do your cooking and stuff during the day so it's not a stress to cook meals. Figure out what you want for breakfast maybe the night before, kind of plan out your day. Dr. Joe talks about meditation and planning out your next day, and you can do that with food too. Just think about, like, you don't have to get up and like cook everything, but just say, hey, I'm going to get up and, what, that sounds really good in the morning. I'm going to have some, turkey bacon, or I'm going to have, just know what you're going to eat the next day, and it makes it a whole lot easier. So, also, probiotics. If anybody really wants to take this to the next level and start to actually heal their gut, this is a great time. Your body's going to be decreasing the amount of gluten that you're not going to put in gluten, so you're not going to be tearing up your GI tract, so this is a good time to heal. Calories are going to be low. Your body's going to have way more energy, so probiotic, usually I say start with about 5 billion cultures per pill, and if you notice that it doesn't really affect your system that bad, some people get some bloating. I jump right up to about 15 to 20. They go up as high as 50 billion. I've done that before, and it makes you definitely feel gassy and bloated. So I'd probably stick towards the lower end if you've never taken probiotics before. If you have, by all means, you can just start with the higher dose. We'll probably get some like 15 or 20 to start with after about the first week, and then run it for the full bottle. It'll be about a month. Big thing with our immune system, it's just good bacteria versus bad bacteria. The more good bacteria you have, the more you can fight off the bad bacteria. So if we take this time and kind of re-educate our gut and refloralize, I don't know how you say that, reflora, add more flora to our gut, healthy, that's a good way to do it, and a good time to do it now is just to build that up. And the average person has between 9 and 12 pounds of good bacteria in their body. So it's kind of a lot. You take antibiotics and it actually wipes that out of your system, and you slowly build it back up. And now that's why the big push is for probiotics is if you've taken antibiotics, you're only slowly going to increase, but if you start pouring them in your system, it's like putting seeds in the ground. They're going to grow a lot quicker than expecting something to grow from nothing. So like to add some probiotics if you want to. So we talked about losing weight a little bit during this. Those of you that really want to lose weight and kind of keep this going after, this is what I'd suggest. If you don't know your basal metabolic rate, basically the minimal number of calories that you need to sustain life on a daily basis, find that out. There's a really cheap, free calculator. This website, I've used it a few times just to track calories if I was trying to gain weight or lose weight, but myfitnesspal.com. I think you give them like an email or a Facebook account. That's all you need. And you can go on and figure out, they'll ask you, age, height, weight, male or female, and then activity level. And try to be honest with activity level. I think they give some examples, and for me, for example, I'm in the clinic here adjusting, and then I go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, walk our dogs twice a day, so my activity is pretty high. I think I put moderately high, and it gave us, I think I'm supposed to have 3,400 calories a day just to maintain the weight that I have currently. So you'll kind of be surprised if you look at that. Now the big thing with weight loss is you figure out that number. So let's say it's 2,200 calories a day. Now to lose 1 pound a week, you need to decrease your calorie intake by 500 calories a day. So that equals 3,500 calories a week, or 1 pound. So 500 calories isn't too bad. That's basically the equivalent of 1 medium to large meal. But you'll just cut a little bit off each meal, and you'll notice it go pretty quick. So really easy to do, and you can track all the foods if you've never tracked foods before and have no idea how many calories come in a piece of fish. Look at your labels, start to educate yourself so that, even when this is over, you can kind of look at that and be like, oh, I want my meal to have 400 calories in it. And you'll know, oh, well, I can have half of that piece of fish. I can pretty much have as many vegetables as I want, but I can only have a half a cup of brown rice. And you'll get a good education throughout the process. But yeah, just kind of learn what each food is. But you can track everything on here, and it'll keep track of it for you on that website as well if you really want to. So I know there's some people out there and some people that are going to watch this later that really wanted to do this to lose weight. And that's what I'd suggest. Just find out what your baseline is and go from there. And if you want to lose 2 pounds a week, just figure the math. You got to drop about 1,000 calories off your basal metabolic rate. Again, just stress. If you're on medications, don't get off your medications. If you start noticing changes in your body and you think it has to do with your medications, just discuss with us when you come in for a visit. We can see if this is something that maybe we want to discuss with your MD. Great effects. Your body starts to heal. Sometimes you don't need meds. My mom quit smoking, was on basically 10 different drugs, and soon after that, she only needed 5 of them. So as the body starts to heal and repair, we can start to decrease those sometimes too. So, all right, so how to follow up after? Just a couple notes. So some want to continue weight loss, some want to continue detoxing. I wouldn't consider detoxing for too long. 3 weeks is about the max that I'd probably push the Clearvite in the system. Even though it's a protein supplement, there are certain nutrients that are basically going to make your body function at a much higher level. That's good in the short term, but overall we don't want to do that too long. So to kind of transition that, we're going to talk about some different diets, and then if you want to test food allergies, we can do that too. So different diets that are going to be similar to this are going to be like your paleo-style diet, or there's another one I'm kind of looking into called Primal Blueprint, and they're basically kind of a moderately high protein, medium-high fat, and a very low carb. Now, like they're seeing with a lot of the new research, sugar and carbs, even complex carbs like your oatmeal and all these things that they say are really good for you, if you do too much, it ends up being bad for you in the long run. It's tough on the brain, tough on the gut. So we can actually get by. I actually haven't eaten, I don't think I've eaten any carbs yet today. I think I had protein just this morning. So you can sustain quite a bit of energy just from the right foods. So we can talk about those, or you can research them yourself. We're going back and forth between paleo and the other one. I think we're going to run it for probably 3 or 4 months. And then so just to kind of see what kind of an effect it has on the system. And then this is the really cool part. This is basically an elimination diet. We take out everything that has an allergy to it. So now if you want to try to figure out if you have any food allergies without paying the big money to get tested, this is the best way. So your body's going to be gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, all these basically allergy foods. So what we're going to do is, if you want to do it that way, 1 to 2 weeks, you're going to add in 1 food at a time. So the first week or 2 after, let's say, I want to see if I'm allergic to dairy. So you start, adding a little bit of dairy, maybe a little bit of milk or a little bit of Greek yogurt or something in again, and see how your body reacts, and just keep track of, your mood and how you feel and digestive issues and, energy. And just kind of track it. And if you do pretty well, you're like, cool, I'm good with dairy. So then the next week, maybe you want to try soy. So you add soy products back in. You're like, I kind of felt moody. I didn't feel right when I was on that. So, maybe that's not the best option for you. Doesn't mean you're allergic either, but it means that it's not a good fit for your system, at least at this time in your life. And if you go soy-free for a long time and then a few months down the road you're like, I want to try that again, and you try it and it sits well with you then, maybe we just had a small hormonal imbalance. And now your body's regulated and you can handle it again. So same thing, and gluten's going to be the toughest one though. 3 weeks without gluten, and then you put it back in, you're going to feel it. You might get stuffed up, you might get congested. You know, who knows, everybody has different systems. You know, you might get bloated. But that's kind of how we want to roll with this. I'm going to kind of open it to questions. That was pretty much all I had to say. I just wanted to get through the majority of that.
Yeah. Like, I crave the foods that I know I'm allergic to.
Sure.
You know, all the gluten and all the dairy. How quickly in this program do you think those cravings will go away? Because I'm not kidding you. If I don't have certain things in 24 hours, don't come near me.
First 4 days, 5 days are going to be rough.
First 4 or 5 days.
After about 4 or 5 days, you actually get into it and your body starts to feel pretty good. You get into like getting to eat so often, and the foods that you're putting in are so nutrient dense that when you eat, you actually feel really good. So it takes a little time. Gluten's going to be the biggest one for everybody out there. And I worked in a bakery for 4 years, so bread's always been like a staple in my diet. And I always had trouble gaining weight, so bread had always been a staple to maintain any kind of muscle on my body. And so to go like away from bread, it was really, really hard. And then I was listening to a buddy of mine give a similar presentation in another chiropractic office, and he starts going into how gluten is actually broken down. And one of the byproducts of gluten affects our body the way that meth does. So just to give you the extent of how addicting gluten is, there's a chemical property that is very, very addictive in our brain. So that's why gluten is going to be the toughest one. But once you get out of it and you feel better and you try to add it back in and it affects your system, you'll be like, why did I do that in the first place? So very addictive, though.
When you said, before we
Sure,
go
go ahead.
on, when you
Yeah.
said that it's going to be tough the first 4 days, what do you mean? Are we going to be nauseated, dizzy,
No.
sick?
No, I don't think so. Well, here's the thing is, a typical American diet, like we said, is about 60% carbohydrates. If you kind of look at this one, it's between, you know, depending on how you want to eat, I'm going to do more towards the low end, like maybe 5 to 10%. You know, you could probably do about 20% of the calories on this one, the way it kind of works out with using brown rice, sweet potato, quinoa, and it'll keep your carbs a little bit higher. But looking at coming down from 60% of stuff that's going to be broken down to sugar to even 20%, that's going to be what's hard. So your body's used to getting this blood sugar regulation. And so instead of eating 3 big meals a day that your blood sugar is going to spike and then drop and then spike and drop, what we're going to try to do is eat throughout the day, kind of graze. You know, we're meant to graze. And basically we're going to just kind of sustain blood sugar levels. Now this is the true key to weight loss too, is sustaining blood sugar levels. So for those of you that are interested, that's the hugest part of this too, is the better you can control your blood sugar throughout the day, you're going to do better with it. So that's the hard part.
The difficulty is the habit that you're going to
Yeah.
have to learn, not the effect on your
No. The foods, the good thing is, this isn't like you're only allowed to eat so much of this, this, and this. I give you the sample diet, all the foods you can eat, and you get to pick your own meals. You know, if you're like, wow, I feel really tired, I don't feel like I'm getting enough protein or fat, and low energy, for me that might be a scoop of almond butter. For somebody else, that might be they want to have a salad, you know. What's that? No cup of coffee. Coffee's going to be the other tough one. So that's the other habit.
So is stevia and or honey like out of the question?
So
Sweetener like to bake with?
organic honey is going to be okay. Keep it on a low end because it is so high in sugar. Actually, though, when I was reading through this thing, it said organic, like actual natural maple syrup is allowed too. On a small thing, like don't douse if you make some gluten-free pancakes or anything like that with tapioca flour. Yeah. One last thing. So yeah, juicers. You can use juicers on this. You can use your blender. If you got a Vitamix, I'm jealous, but you can definitely use that.
Daniel?
Yep.
With the product itself and making your thing or what?
Yeah, I think the only thing is they want you to get the Clearvite in the system first before the meal. So a lot of times, I mean, honestly, I just slug it down, wait about 10 minutes, and then have your meal. The reason why is there's actually digestive enzymes in it. So it gets your system going, so by the time you put food in, what you'll see is like a lot better gut functioning because basically the enzymes are already working by the time you get the food down there. So, all right, well, I think I'm going to wrap this thing up. I'll continue to take questions, but we're going to close this up for the people on YouTube here. So we're going to be posting this. So if there's any questions, email at drmark@rainierchiro.com. If I get a lot, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And we'll be doing some weekly updates after like the first 5 to 7 days, and then probably after the hard, or maybe even during the hard detox week in the middle. And I think we'll have a guest appearance from Dr. Joe on one of those videos. So
When are you starting?
I'm starting Monday. So if everybody wants to start together, that's the other thing. So we can have a support system. I'm going to go shopping today and tomorrow, prepare some meals tomorrow night, and we're going to just kick it off Monday.
Or you can have some
Okay.
of where you buy some things.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.